What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in again this week. You may remember a few months back, we had done a one-on-one sound design challenge with Audio Dread, and this time we are back with a sound design challenge with Cactuzz Sound. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future content. And also make sure you head over to Cactuzz Sound's channel and drop a subscription there as well. There will be a link in the description below. With that being said, let's get started. So a few weeks ago, I had put out a video where I, as a Pro Tools user, tried to use other DAWs for sound design. And this was all inspired by a video from Cactuzz Sound where he had mentioned why Logic Pro was the best DAW for sound design. And I had reached out to him just to kind of get permission to use a clip of one of his videos in that video. And we then got to talking, and he had done a challenge with another sound designer before, and I had done one with Audio Dread, and we thought it would be a really cool idea to do one with each other. So he actually came up with the idea of sound designing a short clip from the 1986 movie Aliens, where there's a robot that comes through a big blast door. And so just for some context, let's go ahead and check out that original clip. So that was the original clip that we're going to be sound designing to. And he had mentioned that he wanted to throw some stipulations on there. Kind of like the challenge that I did with Audio Dread, where I provided him with the sounds and he provided me with sounds. We did something very similar, but instead of going to freesounds.org like I did in the first challenge, he had actually mentioned that we would record our own sounds, but we could only use our vehicle. So he went out and got some really cool recordings of his vehicle, and I went out and recorded some for mine, which is the first time I had ever done any Foley recording of a vehicle, so that was a lot of fun. And here's some of the things that I had come up with for him. So with the clips that he sent me, he actually got way better looking camera recordings. He's just so much better at video editing than I am. And here's a little bit of what he got for me that I had to work with. And the first thing you might notice is he has a way nicer car than I do. So before we jump into what I had created using his sounds, he did send over some questions, kind of an interview style questions that he wanted me to answer. So we're just going to dive into that, just kind of give my thought process on the entire project, and then we'll dive into what I had created. So the first thing that I noticed was that the raw files that I had gotten were relatively quiet. Even when I pulled them into Pro Tools, I noticed that the WAV files were very, very tiny. And so my initial thought was, I am just going to have to do so much clip gain with all of these different files. But once I started kind of blending them together, I realized that it was actually a blessing in disguise, because then I had a lot of headroom to work with, and I could really change dynamically the different levels for the sounds that I was blending together. So what I was dreading at first ended up being really great. This is actually a really tough question because I had so much fun with the whole thing. I love doing these challenges. And so one of the things that really stood out to me was the actual recording process, because I had never recorded Foley sounds for my own vehicle before. And so it was really neat getting to sit there and look around my car, because, when I'm driving, I don't really think about, oh, that makes sound or that makes sound. But sitting there and just having to come up with the right camera angles for all the different things and find creative ways to record them and use them, that was super fun. The other part that was a lot of fun for me was just the sheer anticipation of waiting on the files, because I didn't know what I was going to get. I didn't know what I was about to be working with. Were they going to be garbage? Were they going to be really great? What different types of sounds was I about to receive? And how could I use them? So that anticipation was definitely a lot of the fun part of this challenge. So I think the hardest part was knowing exactly where the sounds came from. And as I was manipulating these sounds, knowing that they came from a car, I was trying to manipulate them to sound not car-esque and more robotic. But every time I would play through, no matter what I did processing wise, or no matter how many different layers I put on there, my brain just kind of kept going, yep, that's a motorized mirror, or yep, that's a window, or a car door shutting. And so it was really hard to pull away from that. And I kept over analyzing everything. And it just made it really difficult. So, of the sounds that I was sent, the vast majority of them were short, transient sounds, which worked really well for like the footsteps and things like that. But then when it came to the arm movements, that, the arms go up at the beginning, or, the movement of the legs between each footsteps, I only had a little bit to work with, which was primarily the window and the motorized mirror. And so I would have liked to have had either some more variations to work with, or just something else that kind of gave a more sustained vibration type sound that I could have used to make those movements. The plugin that I used the most was definitely the stock Pro Tools pitch shift. While the sounds that I was given were very high quality, they they weren't very heavy. And I'm trying to create the sound of this heavy robot moving around. So pitch shift came in handy to kind of pull that down and just make them sound like a heavier sound. All right, so now that we've done an overview of how I felt the process went, let's take a look at what I was able to create with Cactuzz Sound vehicle noises. So when I started, I pulled all his sounds into Pro Tools, and I wanted to start with creating an overall ambient environment. So I ended up taking the car trunk sound that he had sent me, and I put two different layers of reverb on it. And I've got it soloed out here, and I'll go ahead and crank it up because it is fairly quiet, and hopefully you guys can kind of hear just the ambience portion. So I thought that, that really kind of made a great ambient environment. For the big blast door, I had used the car window sound and reversed them, layered them on top of each other. And I pitch shifted two of them. One is right where it was recorded at, the other two are pitched a little different. And I've got some other effects on there as well. And it's not as heavy as I'd like to have made it, but it is, a mechanical door going up. For the arm raising, I used the mirrors quite a bit in this project because I didn't have as many mechanical sounds as I was hoping to get. You know, most of the sounds that I had gotten were very short, transient sounds. And so for the arm movement, I used the mirrors and I pitch shifted both of those as well. And I ended up using the exact same um, mirror movement for the feet movement, not the actual footsteps themselves. And so it is the same sound over and over again because I like I said, I didn't have a whole lot of mechanical sounds to work with. So I really had to make do with what I had. So when I pitch shifted them, I went into the fine tuning and just kind of pitch shifted them a little different from each other. Kind of like what you guys have seen me do in the Unreal videos, where I'll run it through a randomizer and a modulator and it will automatically do that. In Pro Tools, I had to do it, manually. Now, when it came to the actual footsteps, I used the car door sound, which there were, I think, 7 different sounds that I had gotten, and there were 8 footsteps total. So I had to use one over again, but I took the interior and exterior sounds and layered them on top of each other. So for that 8th one, I took a different interior and a different exterior so that it still wasn't the same sound. Now, knowing that these came from a vehicle, they do still sound like a car door to me. But, maybe they don't to you. Maybe now that you've seen where the sounds come from, it has the same effect on you. But I just kind of wanted to give a little insight into my overall sound design process for that. So there you have it. Like I said, one of the things that I had the most trouble with was pulling away from the fact that knowing where those sounds came from, even listening back to it now, that still sounds like a car door in the footsteps and a motorized mirror for the movements. So, I think this could have been done a little better on my part. But if you want to see what he created using my sounds, you're just going to have to go check out his channel. So like I said, you will find a link to his channel in the description below, along with some of the behind the scenes and his thoughts on the process. And make sure you subscribe to him while you're over there. Don't forget, there is still plenty of time to get your entry in for the I Challenge You to Sound Design This Clip number 8. Remember, when you upload those back to YouTube, make sure you include hashtag the sound effects guy in the title. That's what I'm going to be using when I look for them. Those entries are due by Friday, January 8th. And then the following Friday, January 15th at 3 p.m. Eastern, I will be doing a live review of those submissions. Until next time.